Hi, good evening. Thank you guys for being here. Today is the second workshop in our financial planning, financial literacy series, workshop series. And we have a few guests that are here from Bank of America's Better Money Habits education team, and I will let them introduce themselves and enjoy. We will be sharing information to those of you that are online, and we'll send in the chat if you want to look for any of the handouts that we'll be posting through there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Valenzuela, and this is Brenda. She and I both work for Bank of America in a financial center. And today we are going to be covering budgeting and saving and the different tools that'll help you in your financial future. So should we?
Okay, and then I'm going to start.
All right. So again, this series is all around budgeting and saving.
So one of the things that you guys have to think about when you want to budget and save is what are your goals? What does it take to reach your goals, whether they're a dream or an actual tangible idea?
So when it comes to your finances, it works similarly, right? We need a goal, whatever we say, but we also need a plan. And that usually helps and defines our financial success if we have something to work with, right, to help us get to that plan.
So per se, let's say that you're saving to buy your first car, or you're saving to, or you want to buy your dream car. You have to sort of have a financial plan instituted in that, because it's just not going to come to you magically, right? Or Santa's not going to bring it to you.
So when we talk about setting financial goals, we always look into short-term goals and long-term goals, right? Something to think about, short-term financial goals would be, hey, there's a concert coming up. How much does it cost? And how much do I need to save to get there, right? So that's usually something that'll happen within the next couple months, maybe a few months at the most. Long-term goals are a little different. If you're looking long-term, maybe to Brenda's point, if you're looking to buy a car, right? We usually want to consider something you're shopping around for. It's not something you might be ready to buy within a month or 2 months. It might take some planning, right? We need to know how much we want to spend on a vehicle and how much are we paying cash, full cash, or are we going to make monthly payments, and how much are we comfortable with? So those are just a few things for you guys to keep in mind when creating a short-term goal.
And also, maybe a long-term goal would be going to college, right? We know there's student loans, we know there's some sort of aid, but overall, you kind of want to plan as to what is it that you want to achieve and how much it's going to cost, what college you want to go to, and plan for that so that you can graduate or go to college debt-free, because that would also eventually impact your budgeting and saving as you grow older.
The ability to save and create some kind of a plan really depends on how you plan on managing your finances, right? Different people save and plan for different reasons, but having a financial security and having a budget helps. Not only is it considered a living map, right, for the goal that you're trying to achieve, but also having some money saved for a rainy day, right? Financial security. Different things could happen when you buy a vehicle. For instance, you buy a car and you might need to repair a tire, or you might have to pay for the registration every year, and there's unexpected expenses. So it's always important to have that security bucket, as well as having some kind of a budget plan to know what you're working with, right? So who knows what a budget is? What we talked about why it's important and what exactly we're looking to do, but what is a budget? What comes to mind? You guys can shout.
There's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong or right answer. Just
Like, and there's a maximum on costs you want to spend for something, so that you can keep extra money and not lose money in the process.
Exactly. Yeah. Anybody else? So
basically, a budget is like, okay, I have this much money, or I want to buy this. How much money do I need? And how much am I willing to sacrifice or to spend on a certain thing without going into debt or without or spending more than I could actually earn back. So it's all gonna look different for everybody. It's all gonna, people like to save, it's as important, but also how much are you willing to spend on a certain item that you like.
And also with a budget, it also helps you get to that goal a little faster, right? Because without a plan, it might take you a little bit longer to get to whatever you're saving for, right? And also creating a budget allows you to stay in the positive, right? And not overspend. Because without a budget, you can easily also go into the negative and not have enough money to get to that financial goal that you're planning. So why spending plan may not be working, right? Life happens. There's really different things. All of you guys, I'm sure, probably get invited, right, to different things. Hey, let's go grab some lunch. Next friend says, let's go catch a movie. Let's go to a birthday party. And so life happens. And so different reasons, right? Sometimes what if you had a weekend job and then you were laid off, or, having a weekly allowance, all of a sudden your parents say, hey, enough, you have to get your own job. So just different reasons, right, of why spending might not happen or might come in the way, but with the right tools, we can help you get back into that plan. The biggest thing to know when creating a budget is know your income. What's income? Do you guys know what that is? Yeah?
It's the amount of money that you're able to bring in after other expenses are paid.
Income. Is it the same amount every time?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, right? How are different ways that you guys can get income? What are some of the ways that you get money? Yeah?
A job.
A job? Uh-huh. How do you get, no, mom, dad, aunties, no, friends? A job, sometimes holidays, right? Sometimes gifts. So it could be inconsistent, but knowing how much money and is it always the same, right? Creating a plan. What am I saving for? So now that I have this income, right, money coming in, what am I saving for? So this is where I want to make a plan, because what do I want to spend it on? And tracking your spending. This is important because how many of us have like Hulu, Netflix, thinking maybe Starbucks every day or at least every other day, Grubhub, right? It's very easy, right? A lot of us have a cell phone. How many apps let me just order through my app and get it done with. By the end of the day, it's very easy, right, to spend.
And sometimes you might think about, oh, my Hulu is only $7 a month. Oh, if I add Disney Plus, it's only $11 a month. But then you have that, but then you have Prime, but then you have Netflix, but then you have something else going on, an app that you like to play games on. So adding those up would be considered part of your budget, because it's money coming out for either leisure or necessities or just, being a human. And you kind of have to plan your budget, because maybe those $5-6 for Starbucks might not seem a lot because it's $5, but when you start, especially us, working every day, if you're spending $5 a day for coffee, it's gonna add up to a month to at least, if you want to think about it, 5, 10, 25, 4 weeks, so $100 a month in coffee, where you can buy a 3-pound coffee from Costco and have it for 3 months. So those are little things that you have to think of and adjusting. And you can be fine. You can make it so that you want to have Starbucks and you're gonna cut down on something that is not as important as for you.
When I think of Grubhub, right, you order a meal, and then by the end, like this $10 meal ends up being $25, then a tip, where I could have easily just gone and picked up the meal myself. That's also adjusting, right? The convenience, you're paying for the convenience, but in the end, if we're doing that every day, it adds up quickly. So no tracking, have an idea, right? Save your receipts, total them up so you get an idea of what you're spending, how much you're spending, and is there wiggle room for you to maybe cut back on a few things, where making some adjustments without having to sacrifice the things that you like. Some of you are probably thinking of getting a job, right? Or maybe have a job, and you're getting paid through a paycheck. Have you guys seen this screen before, or talked about knowing your income and your paycheck? Yeah? What do you remember about the gross pay?
Gross pay is kind of like your direct like wage that you get from your job per hour, and then deductions are a series of other things that you have to pay for, such as taxes, healthcare, insurance, putting money into a 401k or otherwise, and then the result once those deductions are subtracted is your actual net pay, which is
very good. Very good.
But one of the important things as you want to become independent and maybe live by yourself or having roommates, that you do have to consider that when you're trying to look for an apartment or place to live, they consider your gross pay, the calculation as to are you able to afford it. But that just is for you to qualify to rent the place. But in reality, you have to consider your net pay. So let's say that you're making enough to rent it out, right? An example is, let's say that your gross pay is $2,600. But then you go to your net pay, and it's after all deductions and whatever you're contributing to, whether you have dependents or not, whether any tax bracket you're in, your net pay is, let's say, $1,900. But then your monthly rent is going to be $2,000 because that's how much, rent is in California sometimes. So you truly need one paycheck plus a little more just for the rent. So those are things that you have to consider based on your net pay. After any deductions, what can you afford with your net pay, even though they consider your gross pay for the calculation, whether you can qualify to live in an apartment by yourself.
Yeah, that's very important, knowing that the gross pay is not your take-home pay, because when you start, it was a big surprise for me, right? When I started my first job, and I had worked at McDonald's, and I worked X amount of hours, and I got paid X amount of, whatever they paid at the time. Gosh. And I thought in my mind I was making, this much money, and when I saw my paycheck, I was shocked. It was much less than what I anticipated. I didn't keep in mind that I would be, I'd have these deductions. So knowing that, yes, the hours I work and the amount I'm supposed to get paid hourly is not my take-home pay. It will always be less. So that's also important when creating a budget, is knowing part of your income. So here's an example of just a few parts of the deductions that you guys will see, right? We talked about what gross pay is. Mandatory deductions include taxes, right? We all have to pay taxes. These are the unavoidable state, social, and Medicare taxes. But the voluntary, these are optional for you depending on what stage of life you're in. And the net pay is your take-home pay, right? So quick example here, here's an example. As Brenda had mentioned, your gross pay was $1,000. Minus these deductions, your actual take-home pay would be $753.
And then this is just an example of what a budget categorized would be and what percentage it takes out of your pay. It all works different from everybody, but the majority of adults, we kind of have either some sort of like living expenses statement, and depending on how good you were in it, whether you took a financial literacy course, you might have some debt accumulated that you have to account to pay for that, right? And of course, there's certain factors that you can control, like food. Are you gonna go buy a Gelson's Market, or are you gonna go try to buy a grocery outlet or somewhere where it's more convenient and less expensive? So it's same with clothing, right? So you can choose to buy big brand names or do thrift shopping. Everybody likes certain lifestyles and luxuries. It's all to consider in your budget. They're all gonna look different.
What stands out to you guys based on this budget sample? Where are most of our funds or income going to?
Rent and food.
Rent and food, right? We need a place to live, and we need to eat. I think it's just adjusting those habits to figure out, do I need, depending on what kind of quality of life I want, do I need a roommate, or do I want to live by myself? Do I still want to live at home? And then we need to eat. but do I eat out every day? Or maybe it isn't, you know, so this is a spending worksheet. We want to provide this to you so that way you have and do this exercise at home.
The categories might not be relevant to you, but it's just an example. You can cross them out and write what is relevant for yourself, whether you are contributing for rent at home, whether you contribute to groceries, or groceries can be, okay, I like to eat out every Friday with my friends. So you can change those around. This is important, going a little bit back to what Emma was saying, like, do I want to live with roommates or I don't? I had a bad experience living with a roommate where I decided I'm not going to have roommates as long as I can afford it. So I had to readjust. So now instead of paying half of the rent I was paying, I had to adjust to pay double the rent. So I had to make sure, what am I spending on that is not necessary for me to breathe and live and go to work? So you kind of have to analyze what you're spending on, and if it's kind of like taking you into a way where, like, I'm not able to save as much as I want, what am I going to cut down so that I can still have the luxury of living by myself, but at the same time, like, following all the other necessities and expenses that we have.
So this is just for you to do this exercise at home and have something to work with. I could tell you that working in the bank, a lot of our clients could use a budgeting tool similar to this. There's a lot coming in, but a lot going out, and not a lot of being saved. So I think that this is a great tool for you to just help you get an idea of where your money is going, right? Needs versus wants. What comes to mind when you think of financially, right? When you think of
And this one they did cover.
oh, they did. Okay, perfect. What do you remember between the needs and the wants? No.
It can vary. Needs are things like living, food, rent, savings, and whatnot. That are other things that might help for your job. So, like a phone can and typically is now a need more than a want, because there's a lot of jobs that require you to have some form of communication or something. For example, if you're driving for Uber or you're doing GrabHub or something like that, then you still need to have some kind of device.
Yeah.
And it becomes more of a need than a want.
Yeah, good point. You need a phone, right? This is a society we live in. We need a phone. But does, like, last year's edition work just the same as this year's? Likely nothing really changed, right? There's not a big difference other than a camera lens, perhaps. But the real realization is that an older phone still works, so you can still have one, right? I'm thinking maybe we need a dress, right? We need clothes, but I don't need big name brands to dress. I can maybe shop around, thrift shop a little, maybe donations. I could think of maybe anything on sale, right? I don't need the most current whatever brand because they do exactly the same. It also depends on how much I'm spending on each. So I won't spend a whole lot since you guys covered it last time. Any questions on that?
So with calculating your budget, you kind of also more than likely will need to, and would be really recommended to have an emergency fund. You want to ensure that you have enough money saved up after you figure out what your budget is, what you're spending on, that times 3, right? You want to make sure that you have a savings that is just for emergencies. Let's say that you lose your job, that something out of the ordinary happens. Maybe your roommate decides to move to another state or to another, they find a boyfriend, girlfriend, a partner, and they want to go live, and then you're like figuring out how to pay that month of rent while you find another suitable roommate. So this is also important for that. So once you figure that out, the first thing that you want to do is ensure that you have an emergency fund 3 times the what your budget is. Why? Because that's gonna prevent you from having to ask for credit cards or falling into debt and asking for borrowing money. Overall, it's gonna help you continue with your plan without doing as much damage as possible.
So here are some best practices, right? We talked about setting a plan for yourself, some kind of a budget, right? Because we want to know how much money is coming in, but also what am I saving for? But here's another example. Maybe instead of spending money on gas, if you have a car, maybe taking public transportation, right? Bus fare is usually like $1 something. I'm not quite sure, but it's about $1 something versus gas. I don't know if any of you drive, but gas typically for me is about $70. So it is quite a difference, right? Especially if I'm trying to save for something. Maybe changing your phone plan. We talked about maybe not having the latest phone, but maybe you don't need all those extra features, right, that get tackled on when having a phone plan. Maybe when you go out shopping, sometimes we do what is called impulsive shopping. I find that if I really want something and I walk away, and if I still come back a week later and then it's something I really, decided to buy. But for the most part, at the moment, if it was something I really just wanted to buy because I was bored, it might not be something I need, or it's not a want, right? And stick to your grocery list. Brenda and I were talking about this earlier. When you go grocery shopping, go with an empty, full stomach, not empty
with
stomach.
the full stomach. I just did that
Because you tend to buy extra. And also, look for coupons. There's nothing wrong with paying with coupons, especially when you're saving money that you can spend on other fun stuff, right? There's also deals. Look for deals. There's usually a buy one, get one type thing. Also, grocery stores will have a membership, and you get additional discounts just for being a member. So always sign up for things that's going to save you money in the back end. And we talked about taking a meal to work or out to school, right? I pack a lunch every day. One, because I don't have time to go out and buy lunch, but two, I realized how much money I was saving just taking, and also calorie-wise, right?
Yes.
We control how much of that healthy eating if we prepare our own meals.
And then we're kind of guilty of that. Once you're like having a job, you kind of want to go eat out. And for a while during the pandemic, our company was so nice enough that they were buying us food. Even though it was free for us, we didn't have to pay anything as long as we didn't go over the budget per person. We were overeating calories that were not healthy. So in the long run, there was no gyms, there was no nothing. So even though it might not be free, I would eventually, if you're not paying attention, those calories, it's gonna come in as an expense. Now you have to buy new clothes. So even though it was free, but now my clothes don't fit because I'm not really watching what I'm eating. So it's just thinking about it.
So this topic, financial safety, it's one of the most important things that you guys are going to hear today. How just keeping any type of financial safety, regardless of where you are, right? Regardless of whether you have an account or not, just how to protect yourself in different ways and identify fraudulent activity. So in this scenario, we're going to talk about how to identify fraud and identity theft, different ways to protect yourself, and what to do, right? Because unfortunately, it is something that can happen, and just know that you're protected, right? There's different ways to protect yourself.
The difference between fraud and identity theft, right? So fraud, let's say that you have a debit card or credit card. For whatever reason, I don't know how these people come up with these ideas. You see a charge on your account that you don't recognize. So you call your bank, and because, most banks are, depending on the account you have FDIC insurance, your money is protected because you didn't know about this. It just happened, you woke up and the charge is there, so that's considered fraud. Identity theft, let's say that you lose your wallet, and unfortunately you were carrying your IDs and your social security number. Someone finds it and starts to pretend to be you because they have your social, they start applying. Now, even though it's great to have the online world at the palm of our hands, it's also very dangerous because they can start applying for all kinds of credit cards, all kinds of accounts with your information. You're still somewhat protected, but it's harder to control identity theft than just like a charge on your card that you didn't notice. Didn't authorize.
here are some steps that you guys can proactively take to help avoid being a victim of identity theft, right? Your social security card, make sure that's secure at home and not in your wallet. So these are just items that you don't want to keep with you, right, in your wallet or your purse. Keep your social security card somewhere safe at home. Spare keys, right? That could be to your home or to your car. Make sure you don't have that in your wallet. Birth certificate. I can't think of a reason why I would carry a birth certificate unless I was,
You're doing something
specific
like
for it.
with the city, or I'm not sure, some sort of paperwork.
Checkbook is, if you still write checks, there's people that still write checks. Most of us now do everything online, electronically, but there are still people that write checks. Well, just making sure that that's not only when you need it, right? If you need to write a check, that's the time that you fill out the check and then you leave your checkbook at
Some
home.
landlords still require you
Yeah.
to write a check.
So there's reasons why you still need a
Reasons
check.
why, it sounds a little kind of old for our times, but there's still some reasons why.
But always know, do I need to walk around with my checkbook when nowadays everyone does cash apps or, or your debit card? But unless you need a check, for a specific reason, there's no reason to carry a checkbook. Your passwords, have them secured, have them written down or saved, but not in your wallet, not where someone can guess. And if they're able to have access to, let's say, your online banking or your emails, will they be able to access it with the passwords you have, right?
One of the things I do notice a lot with my friends and like younger people is that we have our phone, but on the case we have the little insert where you can put your credit card, but then you also put your ID, but then let me put a bill there. Oh, let me just grab my key. What happens if you lose that phone? Everything's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's in there. So I'm one to say, we're like, okay, if you carry a purse, a backpack, yes, but if something was to happen, at least it's like not all in the one. You lose the phone, you lose everything else.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose the phone, maybe you still have your backpack or your purse or your wallet. So one of the things to kind of look out for too.
And credit cards, right? When you start applying for credit cards and getting credit cards, sometimes you have one too many. Start picking up the ones you haven't used in a while and just set them aside. You don't want to have all your credit cards, because if your wallet or your purse does get stolen, now there's a higher chance of getting frauded or having some identity theft.
And think about it this way, with Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, all the digital wallets, I carry one credit card and one debit card. Why? Because you never know, in some cash, right? Because you never know when you actually need something. All the other ones, store cards or other credit cards, are used for other things. Digital versions of it, because the digital versions create a digital temporary card number just for that one transaction. So nobody can duplicate it. Even if they try to make a card with that number, it's not going to work, because it only works for that moment. The second after you're done, it changes to another thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of the safest ways to still have them on hand when you need them, but not necessarily carry the plastic physical version of it.
All right. So here are different steps that you could take to protect yourself when online, right? Use strong passwords. I can't share enough. Having something like your dog's name, a loved one, and a birth date, those are very common. That if someone is trying to create identity theft, they have enough information. They can access some of that personal information, right? Also, watch how much you share online. As with this technology and Instagram and social media, we tend to share where we are real time. So we're making it very accessible for people to know that we're not home, that they can maybe help themselves to our stuff at home. So just be cautious, right, of when you're posting, where you're posting. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. And to Brenda's point, securing your phone. If you have everything on your phone and that gets lost, maybe have some kind of a tracking. I know with your watch, sharing your phone with friends they can help you track where your phone is located. Don't keep sensitive information on your phone. I know a lot of people will keep their passwords, socials, things like that on their phone, but maybe there's a keep them separately. And also, it's very, very important to keep your technology up to date, because you'd be surprised hackers will get in to your devices if you're not updating the latest software.
Oh, scamming is one of my favorite things now with social media. Not that it happens, not that my favorite thing to happen to me, but I'm pretty sure we all here have some sort of social media. And then you get this message from Instagram from a random account, either telling you, oh, we've selected you because you followed this account. They're pretending to be somebody else, of course, and like, give us your, like, you won this prize. And once you start replying to them, like, oh, yeah, we just need you to pay for the shipping. It's $6, but you're going to get this iPhone for you, or you're going to get this and all. And they're going to request your debit card information, and they're going to request the expiration date, and they're going to request the security code. Guess what? You're not getting anything. Next thing you know, you gave this information out, just, thinking, or you were just not thinking about it. And that's how you get scammed. And guess what? When you get scammed, when you willingly provide information to somebody, even though they were not who they say they were, it's very hard for the bank to refund you that money, because you willingly send it, or you willingly give out this information
you
to
provided
someone.
that information, so it makes it a little hard. What category
Because
do we put this under? Another one that we see often, scammers will call you and say, this is your bank, give us your debit card information, or send like threatening text messages or emails. Click here, call us now. It sounds very alarming, very threatening, and so people panic, right? And they will call, or they'll click on the link. Just know you don't have to do any of that. If it looks very suspicious, no one will text you. For instance, your bank won't text you saying, click here. They will say, hey, visit your local financial center. Or through email, you can always decline to answer a phone call. You can always decline to answering an email. You just go to the source directly before you start clicking anything. Example, my mom, yesterday, she called me and said, hey, I received this text that says, someone is using my credit card fraudulently and to call this number. I said, first of all, don't call that number. And so I helped her log into her online banking. Turned out it was fraud. That didn't happen. But first, she just saw Bank of America. I said, first of all, that we don't send out a text that says Bank of America. So just things to look out for, right? Another great example is the misspelling. Sometimes these fraudsters are so advanced in technology that it may look like it's coming from your bank, but if you really read the email, there's some misspellings, maybe your information is incorrect, some of the grammar is a little off, so just things to look out for. And also secure sites will have that padlock, right? So just a couple of things for you guys to keep in mind.
One of the things I would like to tell our clients is like, and honestly, we see it more without, like, the older our clients are, the more likely they can fall into these sort of scams. Younger people, I don't know, because we grew up with this, we kind of can tell the difference when something's legit and when it's not. But always, like, if they're saying it's a fraudulent transaction and you just don't trust, you're like now confused, go onto your online banking and check, well, they're telling me I don't see anything on my accounts. Okay, I must be good. If you do see something, then at that point, call the number on the back of your card or call through your app. Instead of whatever number they provide, just call or go to your nearest financial center.
Another thing to keep in mind is how much information is being sent to you, right? When you open your bank account, if your bank offers to send you email statements rather than paper statements, always go that route. Anything that the less paper trail that you have, it's better, because we're not putting, you're likely to not have like stolen mail or any of that information. When you're old enough to check your credit report, check it. You guys can do that annually. It's free. Credit report tells you not only how many accounts are open, how many credit cards are open, but also it helps you identify if there is any new accounts. And in some cases, you can even ask to be notified if a new account was open, so you get notification. Hey, somebody tried going to the bank down the street and open an account, and you're alerted. Another thing is watch your mailbox, right? Funny things can happen. A lot of clients have their mail stolen, especially the ones that write checks. That's usually where fraud happens. You can also speak to the post office and ask to pick up the mail there in person with ID. So that's also an option, right? Shredding papers. I can't stress this enough. FedEx, I believe, has a shredded system. You go, you pay, but you can actually put all your paper that you want to shred into a bin, or having a personal shredder at home. That's very important because people actually make a living out of diving into your trash to get personal information from you. And again, talked about being weary of any strangers, but also any strange texts or emails and phone calls. Right? So if you get any notification from a bank, call your bank. You don't have to answer any calls, any texts, any emails. You can go to the bank directly or call them yourself. File a police report. When you identify any type of fraud, the sooner you tackle it, the better. They have the police department has a specialized department that handles any type of fraud. And also, if you check your credit report and there's something suspicious, something you didn't open, contact the credit bureau. It might not seem important now if I see something suspicious, but down the line, when I want to buy a house or a car or something bigger, that's when it becomes a problem. So just know that there's the bank, your money's protected, right? If there's something fraudulent that you did not authorize, that you have no idea what's happening, you're protected. Police report, they will help you try and recover, who did it and all that good stuff. But also the credit bureau, they work with you to try to remove these fraudulent items from your credit report, which are important. And then lastly, what to do, right, if it happens to you?
Yeah, don't keep personal IDs or information with you. Be safe, just sign on to your own device. Don't trust anybody that's trying to tell you that they're gonna give you a prize, and know what steps to follow if you ever fall into a scam or fraud.
All right, so that concludes our portion of Better Money Habits. Thank you all for your time.
All right. And so now we're actually gonna pick a couple of raffle winners while I'm setting up the game. And then we'll do it together on the screen.
Okay, we have an Amazon gift card. This will be the first thing we give away. So check your tickets. And, red one.
Do I read the whole number?
Yes.
2404050.
Yay!
There you go. Next thing we have is a Netflix.
$25, so if you already have Netflix, you can load that up.
So this one is 2404053.
Okay, we have a pen that doubles as a stylus, thank you, that also doubles as a light, or triples as a light. So we have this, and we have some workbooks, messages, all of that. So these two go together, and that goes to
All right. Me, no. 2404052.
Yay! There you go. Okay. And we have another pen and another notebook.
And 2404051.
All right.
the game itself, it's actually kind of cute. I have played it a few times. I have never gotten Enzo to Vegas. So if you guys can play it and get him there, that'd be good. You need to make it to Vegas. You have to at least save 20% going to Vegas each time. So this is very similar to when you want to retire. Usually, is it 16%? What do they usually recommend you save?
It
The
all
more, the better.
depends, but normally it's if you have a job that can match up to a certain
Yes.
percentage, for example, 5%, so you're putting 5% of your pay from your paycheck that is matched by your employer, but you could always do more. It's all gonna depend again on your budget. If you're not paying rent, I would put more into my retirement plan because I have extra money that I don't need for that. If you're paying rent, then you might kind of like lower a little bit so you can actually afford to put more. It all depends.
Yes. And our next session, going over investing. This is where it's really important. You can start investing at any age, but the younger you are, the better off you're going to be for retirement. So if you guys can start getting a really healthy habit of saving and investing your money in different things, the better. So definitely don't miss the next session.
We just want to thank you guys on behalf of Better Money Habits and Bank of America for having us here today, but also investing in yourself, right, and your future. So hopefully you guys have some good takeaways. Again, it might not be relevant now, but down the line, you realize some of the stuff and some of the tools that we provided today are to help you in any financial goals that you have set for yourself.
Yes, same thing. I did not learn so much about the real world finance until I actually started working at the bank, and I never did some sort of financial literacy workshop or anything. Even in high school classes, that economics doesn't really tell you much of how it truly is. And just knowing, right, preventing, or like at least knowing what can be out there will prevent you from falling into a circle, not only of debt, but also of like living in situations or having a job that is just not providing you what you want. You also like your budget will motivate you to move up and get better pay.
Exactly. So thank you.
Yeah. And thank you guys for coming. And we will see you next time, which is May 18th. So we'll be in the same community room, same channel. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for coming. If you have questions, you can come up to us and ask away.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.